This message has been brought to you by the California Landscape Contractors Association Inland Empire Chapter. If you'd like to learn more about our organization, go to clca.org. Hope you enjoy this video.
Alrighty, so what we're going to do, as I understand it, is we're going to do a brief talk about beneficial insects in here, and then we're going to take a hike around the Tree Learning Center, and we'll look for insects that are out in the field and just do a general walk around and enjoy the gardens. The Tree Learning Center is pretty much furnished by Sims Tree Health Specialists. I have some friends who help out financially and with stuff. You know, a lot of my neat things have come from people finding things and then bringing them to me, and I have people who actually help with time and effort. And but other than that, it's a Sims Tree Health Specialist. So the Tree Learning Center is 5.5 acres, and it's an educational center. We teach primarily the industry, but we also do, we have children that come in all the time. Particularly there's a little daycare center that uses us really heavily, and then we have scouts also, and garden clubs. Last week we had the Wildlife Aware program, which is a program where we teach the importance of the landscape to the industry and the laws and regulations from federal and state fish and wildlife as to how to protect the wildlife so you don't get fines. And then Saturday we had a Gates Cactus and Succulent Society goodbye party for one of their longtime members. So we've always got something going on in here. So, yes?
Can you do a self-introduction for the students in the room?
Oh, absolutely. There you go. You're sitting in the front row.
Oh, God. Ed Wallace, I own a design build company over in Long Beach area, Midwest Landscaping. I'm glad to be here.
My name is Brian Gibson. I work at Rush Truck Center, and I'm here just to be part of the chapter in the future and what I can do for the chapter itself.
Steve at Moon Valley Nurseries, used to be Grow West Nurseries, here in Riverside at the end of Adams.
Now, were you with Grow West back
Yes.
there?
Yeah, and
So
they bought us out about 2 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah, we have a new company, same yard,
okay. And same personnel?
almost.
Almost,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, there's a few of us old timers still hanging in there.
All righty. Yes.
Ricardo Sierra with Casa Verde Landscapes.
Where are you from?
Casa Verde Landscape.
Where is that?
Oh, it's in Rancho Cucamonga.
Rancho Cucamonga,
Yeah.
okay.
Maintenance.
John Lloyd, also with CDL, Casa Verde Landscape as well.
Okay. Margot, I think that's you.
Hello.
You're up.
Who am I with? Inland Empire. Yes, yes. And I'm the one who sort of tried to get this event together because of knowing Susan through the trade show that I also have at Landscape Expo. That's me.
So everybody turn down your phones. Since I was so rude to do that.
Pam Kinney with the LCIS, Landscape Contractors Insurance Services.
I'm Mark Pettico with ET Water, and I just installed a Moon Valley tree in my yard last week.
Marcy Daigle with Irrigator Technical Training School.
Did you sign this?
Ken Byrne with T. Christie Enterprises, representing the golf industry.
Brandon Burgess, I'm with Irrigator Technical Training School.
I'm Brian Mullen. I'm a horticulture student at Mount San Antonio College.
All right.
Frank Fontes, I'm on the board, and I'm here with CDL.
All right.
John Hernandez, Eldorado Communications. I'm on the board and on the state board also. We do the chapter newsletter.
I should introduce myself. I'm Susan Sims, Sims Tree Health Specialist, Sims Tree Learning Center, Wildlife Aware, do all that stuff. I'm a state licensed agricultural advisor, applicator, a ISA, International Society of Arboriculture, master arborist, and a tree risk assessor, and all kinds of other things. So it just proves that if you're around long enough, you're all kinds of things. So, and I was fortunate enough, last Saturday, I got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
All right.
So now I can die. Alrighty, so we're going to do this brief talk about beneficial insects. We got a small crowd, so we can answer questions as we go along all you'd like, and then once we get out in the field, we can look at plants, and once we go into the conservatory, you can look at all kinds of insects, because I have a pond in there, so I can't do very much pest control. So we have lots of insects in there. So, when you're talking beneficial insects, you're basically talking either predators or parasites. All right, predators and parasites. Predation. Predators, they usually eat multiple prey. So you get something like a ladybird beetle and it's out and it's feeding all day. That would be like including birds or predators. Some birds will eat 2 insects a minute. So predation is important. Predators often have very large eyes to see better, you know, kind of like wolves have large eyes. Often have grasping claws. And they kill by either being really fast, being really stealthy, you know, just kind of blending into your surroundings, waiting till somebody comes up and then nabbing them, or having traps or snares. So, some of the characteristics of a predator. This is a praying mantis, and she has, if you look at her front legs, she has these spines, and so when she grabs somebody, she impales them on the spine so that they can't easily get away. And then they're stuck on her spines and she can just easily munch away at them. This is generally an extremely fast animal, but it stands there very stealthily, just waiting for somebody to come by close enough where she can grab them. Also, she eats her mates. So, you know, males are just kind of unimportant in the whole world of insects, you know. They're the breadwinners, you know, they provide for the next generation. So usually the last thing the male ever does is to breed with the female, and then he is eaten. And other predators are spiders, and these show all the different modes of capturing an insect. So here would be your trap. So this is an orb weaver spider with a stablementum. That's this really thick part of the web. And she just kind of hangs around waiting for somebody to fly into her web, and then she runs and devours them. And then we have the crab spiders. They're really cool because they sit in the middle of a flower, and they blend in often color-wise with the flower. They kind of shift their coloring to look like the flower, and sometimes you don't notice them being there until your nose is about an inch away from them, smelling the flower, and then all of a sudden they come into view. So they're those stealthy ones. They just sit there and don't move a muscle. And then the jumping spider, Salticidae, they're the active ones. Okay, they're going to chase the insects down. And actually, these guys can jump really well. They have the best visual acuity of any spider, and they are probably one of my favorite spiders because since they have such good eyesight, they communicate with their front arms. So if he sees the girl over there, he'll wave his arms back and forth and, you know, woohoo, woohoo, I'm over here. So they're really cool. But that's the, and then they'll jump on their prey. So they're very, very cool spiders. So those are the 3 different ways that a predator attacks their prey, either by traps, stealth, or capture by running them down or jumping on them. This is a Diceridae, or it's a spider that specializes on pill bugs and sow bugs. So you see these under rocks. If you're out there in the garden, you see this kind of a large, funny-looking colored spider. But if you notice these huge jaws up here, those are specialized to be able to pierce through those, you know, through the sow bugs and the pill bugs, because they have that heavy outer coating, you know, that shell almost like an armadillo. So very specialized. So if you have a sow bug problem, they're really good to have. And then we get into the ladybird beetles. Now, when I grew up, we called them ladybugs, but technically ladybird beetle is correct. So this is the family Coccinellidae, and there's all kinds of them. And the tough thing about them is we all know what an adult ladybird beetle looks like, but that's only one stage of the life. So if you're trying to do some things by organic gardening, or you have clients that are organic gardeners, you need to know all 4 stages. So we have the eggs laid in a group like such, and then the eggs hatch and you get this larva. Don't look anything like mom and dad because this is a complete life cycle, you know, the total metamorphosis. So here it is. Again, all these little white things around here are the dried up bodies of aphids. And then this is the pupa case of the ladybird beetle, and you often find those also on fence posts and all over. And then here is the adult convergent ladybird beetle, and it's feeding on a aphid. So that's the whole life cycle of convergent ladybird beetle. So, and they are a really good beetle to have, a great predator. They are not a good purchase. Okay, you go to the stores, and I hope nobody actually has them here. I'm sorry if you do, and I'm going to say bad things about you. So warning you ahead of time. Ladybird beetles, their natural biology is to hibernate in the wintertime in the hills or in logs or, you know, wherever they can find it's a safe place. So they go and they hibernate there, and entrepreneurs find out where these hiding places are, and they go scoop them up and put them in bags and sell them to the stores. Well, in their natural life, as it starts to warm up, they come out of their hibernation cave, they go warm up on rocks, they fly to a designated elevation, and then they disperse. So when they're caught and sold to you in a bag, you take them out and you sprinkle them out on your plants, and they warm in the air, and they fly to a given elevation and disperse. So those that survive all of that don't stay around for you anyway. You know, so it's a hell of a gimmick, you know, but it's not really a viable way to release predators. If you've got them, you should preserve them, and if you're lucky enough to be a hibernation site, you know, life couldn't be better. But actually selling these, there are better predators to sell than ladybird beetles. So this is another ladybird beetle. This is the ashy gray ladybird beetle, and it is feeding on soft yellow scale. This is soft yellow scale here, and so this ashy gray is feeding on that yellow soft scale. So lots of different kind of ladybird beetles. This is probably one of the best. This is our mealybug destroyer, also called Cryptolemus. So this is a mealybug, and here's mealybugs. These are mealybugs. This is the adult Cryptolemus, very tiny ladybird beetle. This is the immature, the larva stage, okay? Looks just like a long-tailed mealybug. Okay, so if you have adelgids, which also look like mealybugs on your pines, or you have long-tailed mealybugs and you have the Cryptolemus, by looks you can't really tell that easy. But I found that if I poke one of these guys in the butt, or any place, what I end up getting is a droplet of honeydew. Okay, because this is what they do for the ants. The ants come and touch them, and they give them a drop of honeydew. If you touch this guy, he's going to take off. Okay, so that's really one of the ways you can tell if you have the beneficials versus just the pest mealybugs. So you can purchase these and release these. I do periodically purchase these for my conservatory, and it's so that is one of the options that you can use. This is another ladybird beetle. This is even tinier than the last one. Okay, this is the ladybird beetle adult. These are the eggs of psyllids. So anybody in here know how small psyllids are? they're just really, really tiny, okay? You can hardly see how small a psyllid is, and these are their eggs. So you can imagine this little guy is just so tiny. Let's see if we can focus a little better. That's about it. So again, all different varieties of ladybird beetles. Vidalia beetle, this was like the first success story of introduced predators. So Vidalia beetle, here it is as the adult. Here's the immature. Looks like the immatures again look like mealybugs. And what they were brought into California to feed on is cottony cushion scale. So that was in 1888 they brought them in. They had great success, and that was the beginning of starting to bring in beneficial insects for control of problems. So also something you can buy.
When you say bring in, where did they bring them in from?
I believe that was Australia, but I don't, my memory isn't too great anymore. But now when they bring things in, they have to, it's not like, I'm going to go visit where cottony cushion is and bring something in. Now they go through a great big deal to make sure there's not going to be secondary problems. But back in 1888, it was easier. Oh, this one, you can buy this, okay? So if you were to have a problem with cottony cushion scale, you can bring that, but cottony cushion scale is usually not a main problem anymore because these guys have been so good. This has been such a success story. Two-stab ladybird beetle also is available. This little critter you will find feeding on sycamore scale. Okay, so it is one of those things we would like to find on our sycamore scales. So if you go up to your sycamore and you start peeling bark back and you see the fuzzy scale beneath the bark, this is what will be feeding on it. So here's your adult and here is your immature again. And then this is some of the debris from the sycamore scale. You can purchase those also. Okay, now we're just going to get into some miscellaneous beetles. So these are predaceous ground beetles. Here is the mature, and this is not the one that slowly walks along with its rear end up. That's not the same guy. These are fast. So this is a beetle that's going to run quite quickly. It's going to run its prey down. And here is the immature stage. Notice the very large jaws up here to grab its prey. So as slide says, lives in soil, loose leaf matter under rocks, logs, or flat stones, run fast, generally do not fly, and most of the predatory beetles are going to be nocturnal. One of my favorites is a soldier beetle, Cantharidae, gorgeous thing. And here is the immature. Notice again the big jaws up here. Okay, so these are predatory. And true bugs. True bugs are insects that are sucking insects. Okay, so we just talked about beetles, which are insects that have chewing mouth parts and have a complete metamorphosis. The whole life cycle taking you back to college, high school, or high school biology. So these guys are sucking insects and they have an incomplete life cycle. So mom and pop kind of resemble the babies, short of the wings. So the true bugs, here are minute pirate bugs, very small. Here is the adult, and you can almost always tell just at a glance a true bug from a beetle because they have these crossed wing patches, and usually there's a little clearness in the rear end of the patch. So here's that cross. Here is the immature, has no wings, but does kind of resemble mom and dad. And these are going to feed on really small insects and spider mites and so forth. So they're going to drink the contents of their prey. So this is something you can purchase and buy. Assassin bug, we have that X on the back again. See right here, that cross on the back, and the wing at the very corner looks different. And it has grabbed another true bug, and it's got its mouth part stuck into the insect, and it's sucking the contents out. So, and usually you can tell a sucking insect from a chewing insect. If you have, well, you know, after a while you just get good enough where you can tell by look. I carry a loop with me all the time. It's a jeweler's loop. It's just part of how I get dressed in the morning. And if I see something that I can't tell, I turn it over on its back, you know, yeah, I hold it. And you just look at the bottom and you can see this mouth part, when it's at rest, runs right between its legs. So it just holds it against its chest right between its legs. Some of the miscellaneous predators are, this is probably one of the best. This is a syrphid fly. When you're out walking amongst the flowers, the wildflowers, and doing the whole nature thing, you see these guys all over. They're called hover flies, flower flies. When I was a kid, we called them HBs because there were some that had this specific H on their back. They look like a bee, but they're not. Okay, these guys, flies have 2 wings, so they only have 1 pair of wings here. They have these huge eyes and tiny little antennae. A bee does not. A bee has 4 wings and nice elbowed antennas. So these are not bees. These do not sting. These are beneficial. So you've got the adult that hovers around feeding on pollen and in general just being beneficial as a pollinizer. And then it lays its eggs on, individually, on pieces of plant that have an infestation of aphids or mites or somebody. So here's your individual egg laid, and then the egg hatches into a maggot because this is a fly. So we have this maggot, and the maggot is here going up and down the stem, grabbing the aphids and feeding on them. So they're really a nice thing to have. And this one is very commercially available and probably the best purchase of any predatory insect if you want to buy. These are lacewings. Here's the adult lacewing. You can tell how it got its name. The wings are really lacy. The eggs are laid on these long stalks, and you'll probably start to notice these. If you're not already familiar with this little egg on a stalk, anybody of you seen these eggs? Okay, you'll start noticing them. Okay, because these are laid all over. So you got the egg on the end of the stalk. It hatches, and then you have this aphid lion. Okay, so this aphid lion is the immature lacewing. It has these very large jaws up here that are grabbing the aphids. In its very young stage, it feeds on mites. And then as it gets bigger, it feeds on larger prey. So, you know, here's another aphid. And then here's your adult. So these you can purchase. You can purchase them in 2 stages. You can get them in the egg. And then when you got them in the egg, you basically are waiting till they hatch. And as soon as they hatch, you go out and you release these. If you wait around until, you know, you just kind of happen to get to it, what happens is everybody who hatches waits around and eats the next guy who hatches. So you end up with a very small population of fat lacewings. You can also buy them newly hatched, and the same problem. You know, you have to get out there and get them released right away because they feed on each other. So I have clients that have me do this. I'm doing it at least a couple times a year with some of my bigger clients. These are hard sells though, you know, really. You have to have that special client who is organic. Most people want to see you out there with that spray and just nuking everything. Most people are not interested in doing things. You know, it's all, they talk a lot, but they don't do a lot. Okay, dragonflies, also a predator. Very good predator. And remember how we were talking about the some of the things that make up a predator? Look at the eyes, huge eyes. So they're an excellent, but they're going to obviously grab the bigger prey. So maybe not going to do a whole lot for our mite infestation, right? Okay, so now talking about mite infestations, this is the western predatory mite right here. Okay, so you can purchase these. They are not inexpensive though. Okay, you let the predatory mites go, they will eat other mites, so they will help keep your mite population in control, but it's all about timing, right? If you go into a mite population and it's exploded, they're not going to take care of it for you. You have to, you'll have to get your population under some kind of control before you release these. Now, this mite is actually feeding on a thrip, so they'll also feed on thrips. Decollete snail, we've been here 16 years or so. One of the first things I did is I released decollete snails because from the nursery industry you end up bringing in snails. So I have brown garden snails, that's the common pest snail, and then I brought in decollete snails. Decollete snails feed on the immature or the very young brown garden snails and on their eggs. They do a fair job, but they don't keep the population under control in a wet year. So the years when we have an El Nino and we really have a lot of rain, I can't bait because I have decollete snails and they'll eat the bait. So I'm out there with a bag and am hand picking the excess brown garden snails. So the downside of the decollete is they can't keep up in a wet year. The upside is they take care of things most of the time. So there's the good and the down.
Seems like those, they come out of nowhere.
These?
So, yeah, because you see a bunch of brown snails and then you see a bunch of these empty snails, shells around. So it's kind of like, well, I never introduced them on the job site, so.
They probably came in with the nursery stock. Yeah, the same way you got the brown snails. You know, they probably came together. So, yeah, I like to have them. You know, this is an educational center, so everything here is not perfect, believe me. You know, we have lots of places where you have things I can teach from. So having these guys around is just part of my educational thing.
Do those originate from other countries or what?
You know, I'm not sure where they were introduced from, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't you. You know, brown garden snail isn't native either. Brown garden snail was imported by, I believe it was a Frenchman. He brought them in so that we could have escargot, and then that went bust, and I guess he, you know, he freed Willie or something, and they all came and, you know, became a major pest, so. Okay, yes?
What do you do with the brown ones? I have thousands of them.
If you don't have the decolletes, then you can bait for them. I have the decolletes that control them to some degree, but if you've got them really bad, bait or go out and hand pick.
And then what do you do with them?
Oh, I throw them in the trash.
She has dogs though, so.
Yeah, okay, well then, you know, you can set out a pan of beer.
What? Okay, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you take a pie pan, you make it level with the soil and fill it full of beer or grape juice. And they crawl in and they don't crawl out.
Use Bud Light.
Yeah. Yeah, but I had a girlfriend who actually got all hers up, and then she put them in a cornmeal, I think, and purged all of the imperfections out of them, and then went through the trouble to make escargot out of it. And she said it was not worth the trouble. So you could always do that if you didn't want to see them go to waste. But
well, no, I just feel bad putting them in the trash. That's why I want to know what you do. If you do that, then.
No, generally speaking, if I'm walking along the sidewalk and there's one in front of me, he gets stepped on and kicked off to the side. And by the end of the day, the decolletes are there feeding on his body.
Oh, right.
Okay. Somebody's going to get him. So, life isn't fair. So I kind of think I have a lot of affinity for plants. So he's going to kill my plants. So.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm trying to think.
Yeah. So parasites. Okay. So parasites are parasitizing or laying their egg in somebody else. So this takes us to this whole thing about horror movies, right, and space movies. So a Phytus malinus, this is a small wasp laying its egg or ovipositing in California red scale. And I should have brought California red scale into it for you. If you guys remind me when we're out there, I will show you what California red scale looks like. If you're looking at a piece of citrus and you see a tiny, tiny little red dot on that piece of citrus, that's California red scale. It's an armored scale and it's sucking the juices out of the citrus leaf, fruit, or twig, and sometimes right on the trunk, and they're hard to see because they're so small. This is so tiny that it's laying its egg inside. So it's very impressive. So a Phytus malinus trying to control California red scale. This is an ichneummonid wasp, and it's laying its egg in a little larva, excuse me. So everything again is very tiny. Most of our predatory parasitic wasps are going to be very small. This is small too. This is Metafucus. This is a scale parasite for black or hemispherical scale. So tiny little parasite, and it's on a scale and it lays its eggs in. So almost all the time you will find a parasite is going to lay one egg in one of its prey. Most of the time. Okay, this is what a parasitized aphid looks like. And you'll see this, you know, if you haven't seen them before, you'll start noticing. So as you're looking at your colony of aphids, some of them look kind of puffy and funny looking. They don't look like everybody else. And so that's because they have a parasite inside of them that's feeding. When that parasite goes through its complete metamorphosis, goes through its pupa, opens out of its pupa, it cuts an escape hole. And so that escape hatch is open, and out comes the mature parasitic wasp. So I'm sure I can find some of these for you when we're out walking around.
Alien.
Yeah, alien. You know, none of that was something that somebody really popped out of their mind. It all came from nature. So the left-hand picture, that is a black scale, and you can see the exit hole to the top right of that black scale colony. The right-hand picture is golden pit scale of oak. So this is a major oak pest, and here's your exit holes from your parasite. This is a pest that you find on olive and oleander. You'll also find it on some of the pittosporums and so forth. So, and again, usually there's one parasite per host, usually.
So you need a lot of those in order, if you only have one per host, how many do they lay, the eggs?
They can lay multiple eggs, but one per host. Yeah. Okay, so this is a grub, and it is parasitized by nematodes. So this is an exception. So if we were to crack this guy open, it would be filled with nematodes. And nematodes are a microscopic roundworm that's in the soil. So most of the time we think of nematodes as being really bad because like root knot nematode is you know, a problem for us. But you can buy nematodes and sprinkle them out or spray them out in turf that will kill the grubs of beetles, and you can also get some that do fleas. I have one of my bigger clients, we go out and we treat every so often for fleas with beneficial nematodes. So, you know, there's a world out there that's kind of different. So that would have lots of nematodes in it if we cut him open. Okay, here's another one that has multiple parasites per host. Okay, but look at the size of the host. These guys get huge, you know. So this is a tomato hornworm. You know, they can easily be 4 or 5 inches, you know, when they get towards the adult. If you are everybody know your tomato hornworm? Okay, so basically, this little wasp, or it's not a tiny wasp, but a small braconid wasp, has laid its eggs inside of the tomato hornworm, and it's fed on the inside, and then when it goes to pupate, it comes out and has these pupa cases that stick out. As the pupa finishes development, then they will have exit holes, and they'll come out, and they'll go looking for more. So, to have success with beneficial insects, it basically gets down to you usually have something of a stressed plant if they're causing a real problem. If there's not, if you have a pest and it's not really causing much of a problem, then you probably have a very healthy plant and it's not worth worrying about. But if it's causing a stress, then why do you have the stress? Why do you have the pest? And you try to figure that out. If you're going to try to do beneficial insects, you can't have ants. Okay? Most of us who have nursery stock have Argentine ants. If you have Argentine ants, you will have no beneficial insect control because they protect the insects. They protect the insects that are sucking, that give them honeydew because they feed on that. So remember I said if you touch a mealybug, he'll emit a droplet of honeydew. That's to feed the ant. Okay, so the ants harvest that honeydew, and then in turn they protect the sucking insect from the predators and parasites. So if you have ants, you're not going to have beneficial insect control. So you've got to control those. So even my clients who are organic will allow me to bait for insects because they know that's the only way we're going to get organic control. So, control ants, monitor trees, identify pests, determine probability for damage or nuisance, and decide on a control program. Organics aren't right for everybody. Determine the probability for damage. Is the pest serious or not? And what is the degree of infestation? If it's minor, maybe you can cut the branch off. If it's something that's going to come under biological control and you have it already, then leave it. What's the condition of the tree or plant and the stresses that are there? Right now, we are all stressed with drought. Even though you're irrigating, the irrigation water is not the same as rain. The rain cleanses our soils of salts and impurities, and we don't have much. Develop a plan. Mediate stresses as much as possible. Determine the most efficient beneficials available at the time. That's a trick. Not all beneficials are available at all the time. Determine how to release it, the equipment and timing. You got to monitor to make sure it's actually working. And continue releases, and that may mean you're going to have to change up the predators or parasites you release. The drawbacks of using beneficials. It requires a lot more knowledge than going out with a spray tank and spraying everything that moves. Okay, a lot more knowledge. And they don't always follow the plans, the beneficials don't. They may not work quickly enough. They won't work quickly enough if you have a large population. There's variables that can affect how they work. The change in weather, the site, or the host tree. Some of these don't work farther inland. If you go down to the desert, then you have to get species that are desert friendly. And the same with the coast. You may have to get species that are coast friendly. There's your Argentine ant. If you've got those, you don't have a hope. So that would be, some of the baits like Max Force work really well, and that'll help get your population down. And that's the way some of the things come, and they come in ice chests generally. And so you have a very short window of time once they get there to get them out into the field. And people don't really feel like they're getting their money's worth when you have this teeny tiny little vial of 100 insects or mites and you're out sprinkling them around. They'd much rather see you out there with a 100-gallon tank of pesticide drenching everything. So it's a hard sell, but it'll eventually come. Can I answer any questions? Because that's it. No? We're all good?
I
Yes.
have a question. One of those little vials there, how much would something like that cost?
It depends. The lace wings are relatively inexpensive, so you might be maybe $50 for 1,000 lace wings, and so it's all species dependent, and whether or not you're buying retail or wholesale. It's the biggest part of the cost of it is the person going out to release. You know, that's what's really the expensive part, because with anything we do, it's the personnel. So, yes?
Do you find a lot of companies coming to you to do organics because, say, if they're maintaining a big property management or like apartment complex, and they don't want to spray because of the liability factors? You find a lot of landscape companies coming to your company to do this type of control?
Not nearly enough, no. No, because it's a hard sell. You know, people aren't there yet. You know, people talk the talk about wanting to do organics, but when it really gets down to doing it, most people are not mentally ready to go organics. You know, they want everything that moves dead. They don't want you introducing another insect that's going to slowly reduce the population of what they have. It's a hard sell. And it does require monitoring. It does require a higher degree of education to know what you're looking at. So it's tough. You know, the time isn't here yet. As they take more and more pesticides away from us, it'll naturally start coming in because we won't have any choices. But as long as we have choices, it's going to be a hard sell. So, but you guys are on the forefront, so yes.
Is there a better, like a certain time in the season to apply beneficials?
Yeah, spring.
Spring.
Yeah, you know, try to get things before they're really out of hand.
Yeah.
Also, I probably should, I mean, we didn't talk about aphids other than being a prey animal, but aphids, and hopefully everybody knows what an aphid is, but aphids are incredible because they are the first women libists. There are no male aphids. The aphids are born with their granddaughters inside of them already. So they're born pregnant, and they just keep going all year. So in the winter time, when the ladybird beetles are out hibernating, the aphids are laying eggs. So once a stem gets absolutely packed with aphids, there's no more room for any more. The next young that are born with wings. So then they go on and infest something else. So by the time that the ladybird beetles or the other predators or parasites wake up, there's plenty of food for them. So, I mean, the whole plant is kind of neat, except for when we have our plants in there being, you know, being fed on. So, but it is pretty incredible. It's just amazing to think that, you know, you can, if you watch aphids long enough, you can actually watch, you got the camera, you can actually watch aphids being born, because they're born live and pretty frequently. So it's kind of amazing thing. So, anybody?
Have you used much more organic sprays as opposed to like neem oil or anything like that as far as?
We use, one of the things that we offer are organically accepted. Okay, I mean, we offer the whole gamut, so don't think I'm just up here on my soapbox just talking all organics, because we do the nuke stuff over here too. I mean, I have this building I have to keep paid for, right? We have horticultural oils, okay? Horticultural oils are organically accepted, so are soaps, so is spinosad and BT. There's a large amount of things now that are organically accepted, and then there's the traditional pesticides. So it's just being arborists and tree healthcare specialists, what we try to do is to get people to take better care of their plants. because often the problems they're having are related to the care they've been taking. You know, they're not adequately meeting the needs of the trees, and that's why the trees are weakened, and you get the pests that come in are actually being able to impact the trees because they're weakened. So that's how we try to do it, and we'll try to do that with all kinds of organics. You know, we'll do mycorrhizae and beneficial bacterias, and we'll try to get the tree immune system cranked up.
Right.
And then, but you know, sometimes you have to come in with the heavy hitters because the tree's under attack by borers. You know? Yeah.
So that should go hand in hand with introducing the plant material that some beneficials that they would want. I mean, introducing plant material that would attract beneficials, is that something that you see is important nowadays? A lot of people putting in quote unquote natives or drought tolerant or plant material. So if you want to introduce this plant material, shouldn't it be some emphasis put on the type of plant material that probably would bring in some beneficials that would be working in conjunction with
That would be terrific. Usually I don't have the opportunity to impact people that way. I'm usually working at don't plant things that are requiring water under your oak trees. You know, I'm usually the person slapping the hands. You know, don't do that. Don't rototill under your oak tree. You know, don't plant high water need things under your Quercus agrifolia, coast live oak. You know, you can do what you want to under Quercus virginiana, but not under agrifolia. So I'm usually doing that type of thing. But absolutely that would be helpful. But you also have to watch the information you get, because years and years ago, you know, I thought organic gardening, that's a cool way. So I read organic gardening and it said, oh, well, you plant marigolds. Marigolds are fabulous for keeping, you know, repelling insects. So I planted marigolds around. Well, they didn't apparently have the information or didn't feel it worth sharing to tell you that marigolds are magnets for mites. So, man, I had these things crawling with spider mites all over the place. And at that time I was working for Burpee Seeds, who was, I mean, talk about how old I am. Burpee Seeds at that time was shedding their DDT, so they sent everybody home with a bag of DDT. So that's how they got it off their shelf. So I had this DDT, and I thought, okay, well, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And the next day I walk out, and these mites are walking along on the top of the marigolds with little pyramids of DDT on them. Didn't bother them at all. So that's when I learned there's the difference between a pesticide and a miticide. And, you know, pesticides don't kill mites. So, so be careful where you get your information. You know, that was really bogus information, and now I know, you know, you put in marigolds, you're probably going to have mites. And that's a big problem in Southern California. So, like I said, a lot to know to be able to do the beneficials. And we'll get there. It's just, we got a long road to hoe before we get it all figured out.